Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice sunny macro Sunday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Plenty to talk about today as I wanted to follow up on the short-term time frame analysis from yesterday as we did hit the upside target, and then what that likely looks like for today, and then plus the major preparations for this next week to come, and then the macro case for Bitcoin, talking about, you know, lows and when low and maybe if there even is a low. And more importantly, I do also want to say that on Instagram, I want to remind you that there's a bunch of scammers on there with similar names to my own personal account, trying to get you to, or trying to DM you to, like, just trying to DM people in order to, you know, give them money for whatever nefarious purposes. I'm not necessarily sure what that all is about. What I am sure about, however, is that I'm not the one doing that. Please understand that that is a scammer, and please do not give your money to these people, as it is very likely going to end in tears. And if you are interested in my own personal account, it is in the link description below. Any other account is a scammer, I can assure you of that. All right, sweet. So let's waste no more time over here. And I want to start it off right now with the short-term time frames. So short-term time frames, we did play that move yesterday, basically to the top side of our range highs off this blue box right here, just right around about 30,000 bucks. Even hit the range low, or very close to the range lows in this case as well. Nice little liquidity draw from both sides. And as always, over the weekend, I'm not like a super humongously interested in price action or really even trust the technical tools. But in terms of just looking at ranges, yes, those typically do work as nice little scalp opportunities. In this case, you got a nice little example right there. So what essentially does that mean for today? Well, today we actually do have a bit of an interesting setup going on right now. And if I go back on over here to the Krown trading application, you'll notice that the funny rates for the hourly are actually quite negative, relatively speaking, negative 0.015%, which is more negative than what we saw on the 2nd of this month of June. So to put that into context, that was our last sort of scam pump, if you will. I think that was, yeah, back on over here, actually rather similar price action in a way, where Bitcoin was coming off the low, puts in a nice little anemic rally, and then slams it down yet again. So, you know, do we get another try to the upside intraday here before CME opens? Perhaps yes, but I would be looking at this again as a range resolution opportunity, meaning that I don't really look at too much different in the short term until Bitcoin does close above at minimum that 618, which is about 30,100 or so, or if we do close like a full hour time from above yesterday's high. If one of those two things happens, then yes, I would be looking for another retest somewhere around the 2nd to 3rd of June highs over here, and then that's the big one for me. If Bitcoin can start to trade back above that region, I actually would start to look at this as a major bear trap forming. Next targeted region would be last week's high, essentially coming in from the 31st to of May to the 1st of June, and then very likely continuation towards those $35,000 regions that I think you know, are still at the tip of the tongue for many people out there. And I suppose that hoping is still alive as long as Bitcoin remains above the range lows. Now we're going to discuss this soon enough as to some interesting things that go alongside this, but in this case right here, just like yesterday, I would not call continuation to this blue box over here right around about 28.5 to 28.6 or so until we do close a short-term time frame below about 29.3 or so. Until then, short-term time frames, what are they looking like? They're looking like a line chart is what they're looking like, not really giving me too much to work with over here. If we do go reference stochastic momentum, I believe that we will notice on the short-term timeframes, like the hourly momentum pivots are at 29,300. 3-hour time frame is pivoted at 29.6. 4-hour time frame is pivoted at 29,650 as well, and 6-hour is pivoted at about 29,450. So they're all kind of in the same range right there, going flippy floppy around each other. But ultimately, you know, what is that likely align with? A bit of sideways, maybe another liquidity grab intraday here, but I really wouldn't be calling continuation either way until we do see closures above or below this range. I know it's not a very sexy analysis, but that is the weekend, and again, I'm never too like, you know, motivated by that. Just personally speaking, I think that technical tools lose their efficacy massively over the weekend. But hey, if you see a close above this region right here, yeah, very likely does extend the rally a good amount more, somewhere around this region over here, and then bull has actually got a bit of a chance. But I do want to kind of temper these expectations with something that is a little bit more important to open up this next week. So obviously CME already closed for the week, and of course we had our first green week in 9 weeks, which means we can have another 9 weeks of fucking red, baby. I don't understand where that analysis comes from. It's like, Bitcoin's gone down for 9 weeks in a row, must go up. Actually, did you happen to know that trends are most likely to continue? Just look at assets that have been around for like 30, 40, 50 years, and you can see that very cleanly. In this case right here, I mean, look, like, Yeah, there's your green week. All right, let's go down again. No, just kidding. Okay, so with CME, closed the weekly at 29,535. And the reason why that is relevant is because if we go reference stochastic momentum for the daily, that was below the stochastic momentum pivot, which is also going to be considered a rejection of going into the bullish control zone for now. So unless we have like a quick flip back above this region, basically by Monday, then very likely we will see this have follow through. And that is going to be 29,800 or so, very close to our range highs right now, actually, just by a couple of ball sack hairs, I do suspect, as you know, just a couple $100 higher in this case. Anyways, so what I wanted to call out over here is actually a new chart, is a new chart that I just kind of made this morning. Looking at the daily BBWP signals for specifically CME. Now I've done this in the past on spot, and I've put that chart out a million damn times, so we don't need to do that for the millionth and first time. But obviously this last signal that we got on that chart did not, I wouldn't say that it didn't like reach its intended target. It's just, you know, it was on the lower end of that statistical average, if you will. So in this case, CME, just looking at CME, low BBWP, which I will define as below 10 percentile, of course, and the expansion phase coming from that has led to an average move of actually, you know, kind of a bit of a wider range here, about 20% or a little bit under 20% in some cases, and in some cases even a little bit over 30%. So, you know, if we were to kind of make an average out of that, you know, somewhere around the mid 20s is probably where we're looking at for an average signal on this. And of course, this signal has typically taken about, you know, 2 to 3 weeks to play out on average. So for example, the last most recent one we saw happened right in over here, boom, down 32.25%. The signal prior to that was back on over here, and you're probably wondering why I didn't call it this one right here. That is because the BBWP was only at 15 percentile. It was not below 10 percentile. Anyways, in this case, this one's about 32% move to the downside done over the course of 24 days. This one over here, another 14-day from high to low, and this one done about 21%. The one before that, 17% done over the course of 10 days. And then we have to go all the way back and over here, 18% done over the course of 11 days, and so on and so forth. You get where I'm going with this. Anyways, in this case, the daily stochastic momentum oscillator has been pretty good at getting the overall direction of it. Not perfect, certainly. If we actually scroll back the whole damn way, we will notice that there are about 2 iterations that are significantly wrong in the past couple of years. Other than that, though, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 iterations, so really not that many, they've actually been, you know, pretty decent. So, sorry, and actually now that I recognize it, is it 2 or is it actually just 1? Well, it depends what you kind of consider this one over here. This one technically was down the whole way, so fair enough. Okay, so it was only 1 out of 7 were incorrect on the expansion for the daily stochastic momentum direction. So here's the thing. Now that we are going to have CME open up a little bit later today at, I believe, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, then this price, you know, assuming that we're still below there, will have that pivoted to the downside. So if we start to see volatility expansion, which is actually rather likely this week, I think sometime around midweek, if you will, as we already see the BBWP itself above the moving average, and both of them actually do have positive slopes, you know, that would imply that, well, that the direction is most likely to be down as long as that condition is being met. So it's going to be very, very important to kind of follow this one up for these next, like, you know, 24 to 36 or 24 to 48 hours, I'd say. But hey, you know, as long as this is downside angled, the likelihood of this playing out to the downside, quite great in comparison to the upside, obviously. And if we were to, you know, kind of theoretically put a price on this, that basically put Bitcoin around its current lows on a wick basis, like 26,000 bucks, which is very interesting because what we can also do is we can also bring up this chart, the 5-day chart actually. And I wanted to call attention to this. So we did play at the move basically on the mean reversion over here. The shallower target was about 33,000 bucks. We got up to about we got up to about 32,500 or so on that last high. And the course of the days that we kind of expected that over was about 10 to 15. And that's basically what we saw over here, 15 days on that last high. So in this case, I did want to call attention to the strange similarities between what we saw over the summer of 2021 in May and June to what we're seeing over here in 2022 and also May and June, actually. You'll notice that the 5-day stochastic momentum is kind of in the same region right here. I'm talking about, did I mark this off? Okay, I did not mark it off properly, but I'm talking about this region right here in that circle, and then I'll just borrow this circle over here in this region over here. We're both coming into the edge of the extreme zones after a nice big downside move. And after that last major volatility expansion, we've already kind of played out the mean reversion, same as this one over here. And what happened after that? Bitcoin came back down and retested around that wick low, which was in alignment with that daily BBWP target that we looked at on CME as well. So does this imply that we do see something like this? Likely. Something like that, where Bitcoin just slides back down somewhere reasonably close to that low and then maybe sets up for another bounce? Possibly, yes, definitely possible. Yes, actually, that is essentially what I would be suggesting is most statistically likely to happen right here. Again, assuming that this condition continues to be met. So it's a long day left to go, obviously, and until CME opens, which again is like another, I can't do the conversions in my mind right now, but I guess it's like probably 8 to 10 hours away, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Or actually definitely longer than that. In fact, maybe like 10 to 14 hours or something like that. Anyways, once that opens back up, and if we do still see price action below about 29,800 or so, then hey, I'm going to be leaning towards the downside. By contrast, if it's above, then I actually would be looking for that bear trap to kind of play out, at least for another move decently above 30,000 bucks. And then you got to be looking at over here the funny rates with these decently negative rates. That does offer up a nice little opportunity. So in this case, I suppose we can now get to, and also on the 5-day, oh God, how did I miss this? All right, so also on the 5-day, we just closed one last night for spot price action. For CME over here, for spot price action and actually CME, they're actually pivoted out the same region now. What is the momentum pivot? 29,450. So if we do start to see the next one close below there, or especially if like the daily starts to come back down below about 29, very likely we will see that move come back down somewhere, again, reasonably close to our current wick lows over the course of, the rest of June, maybe into early July, something like that would kind of make sense. Until then, it's a possibility, but I would not say that the signal is validated as of right now. Of course, it's not validated. We need to see volatility expansion on the daily for CME specifically, which obviously can't happen as it's not trading right now. So Bula Hopium still kind of remains alive. Also on the topic of Bula Hopium, I want to bring you over to the Pride chart over here. It is gay month, I believe, and so we need to celebrate all the things, look, I'm supportive of any sort of, I'm supportive of whatever you define yourself as. That's amazing. I'm more than happy to support that. I just don't know the right terminology because I'm not educated in this fashion. I'm just looking at charts right here, and that's just what it reminded me of, okay? So I worked my way out of this stupid statement. I apologize if there is any sort of hurt feelings with that. It's not my intention, man. My intention is to simply just give out good vibes and hopefully some interesting statistics that go alongside price action. Anyways, what I wanted to call out right here is, I guess on one hand, it could be looked at as hopium. On the other hand, it could be looked at as a harbinger of fucking death and destruction, and that this asset is going to do something that is going to be very, very scary. Okay, and so what is it? Two things. All right, so first and foremost, on the Pride chart, we've never seen Bitcoin really have like consistent closures below the bottom end of this log regression. So yeah, we did see one slightly below over here in March 2020 on the old Rona dump. Other than that, not really. And even just like a small closure below, not a humongous deal. Big deal would obviously be an open and closure below, consistent closures below essentially on a weekly, obviously. So for right now, if you're looking at that, you're saying, hey, that's amazing. Bitcoin's definitely going to hold here. Maybe. On the other hand, another source of hopium would be this intra-market, this intra-cycle, assuming it's an intra-cycle correction, which I have my reservations with, but let's just provide the data as it is. But this 1.272 Fibonacci extension. Now this is a Fibonacci extension from the macro base before breakout into next macro cycle, bull market, I guess. So we've seen this happen once, twice, and maybe working on thrice over here. And actually, sorry, we've definitely seen it happen more than that. Yeah, because we do have this one over here. So it's actually happened 3 times, although I don't necessarily have it pivoted charted over here, but I can assure you that it is. Anyways, what I'm focusing on right now, maybe we just go back to this chart because it has at least 3 of them, is the 1.272. So you will notice that Bitcoin typically plays out like a mid-cycle correction down to that level, even tested a few times, even what's below, which is fine as well, but really no consistent closures below it as well before moving back again to the upside. So if you are looking at this cycle as like still in a bull cycle, which I don't fucking see how you could look at it like that, but hey, that's just me. Typically you don't see assets go down twice 50% in the same year when that happens. But hey, again, just personal opinion, I guess. Make your own decision for yourself. Then you would be expecting the 1.272 to hold. So we've seen it over here, we've seen it over here, and we would actually literally be on it right now. So that would be about $29,000 even. So basically you don't want to see Bitcoin close below there because it not only violate that, but it start to, pretty much come into contact with the bottom end of that regression as well. Other than that, if I do think that this is hopium, to be quite frank with you. What I think is a lot more relevant is this chart right here, the accumulation distribution indicator, of which this chart has accurately called the lows and the move off the lows very, 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 very well in Bitcoin's history. And let me just make another note over here so that I don't forget this because it is important. Okay, there we go. All right, so on this chart, I've already gone through the explanation on this a million times. Basically, the slope change in the extremes, both the red and the green, do correlate to macro shifts in directions. That's represented by all these green vertical bars over here. You can see that yourself very easily. Back tests it nice and lovingly. What I wanted to call attention to is two things, however. One, we have never really seen a macro cycle low, or at least there's no talks of macro cycle low even being in, which would imply that the macro cycle low would be in prior to this condition without the monthly accumulation distribution indicator getting a positive slope. Right now it has a negative slope and just treading into the red zone. So that would be another condition, is that we've never seen a macro cycle low without getting into the red zone. In this case, this would be the shallowest foray into the red zone that we've ever seen. So again, quite unlikely, I would say. And then also, if I were to draw a regression reasonably close to all of the macro lows, it would be represented by this green horizontal bar right here, which I've also put in red X's where those macro lows actually did occur. So, it's pretty damn close to all of them. And then I've also kind of marked it off with red circles, or I've tried to, I think. I think I tried to, but it didn't really work off that well. Let me actually just draw it out over here. So yeah, I'm talking about, well, I guess I had it right there, but let me just do some drawings there. There's the red X. Here's another red X for you, and here's another red X. This one obviously did not get the actual low itself, but I would argue that the indicator or the chart was too new at this time, so it didn't really have enough time to populate and give consistent results. Anyways, so that would also humbly imply that Bitcoin very unlikely has put in a low or has even seen reasonably close to the low right now, as we do expect that to come down somewhere around this region. Again, somewhere just reasonably close. Also, if we were to draw a regression between the last few lows and even last few highs, that would be represented by these white bars right here. And on the top side, it's gotten, again, reasonably close to where those highs are. On the bottom side, reasonably close again as well. It is a regression. It's not perfect, but it would imply that we probably look for a low somewhere around here. Which I think best case scenario, we probably see some choppy price action like this. I do think that this is best case scenario for Bulas, is that Bitcoin will come down, again, test somewhere around those $25,000 lows, maybe even put a little bit of a wick lower, bounce around a bit, play out a range basically between about 35 and 20,000 bucks for a long time. And then if Bitcoin can hold that like by, let's say, at least Q4, preferably end of year, at that point, it's going to start to look a lot like accumulation. And, we can start to talk about Bula targets yet again. But until then, I do think that it's just very unlikely that we've seen the low, and probably do at least retest the current lows somewhere around close there or a little bit lower at minimum, to put it bluntly. To take it one step further, we can look at the monthly stochastic momentum oscillator, which I will bring up over here. And what do I want to say about this? We've never seen a macro low basically without going into, around or actually below the critical zone, which we will be getting there actually at the end of this month, but not even below there by the end of this month. That would be August, of course. And we can also forecast the price that would be needed in order to change the direction on this, which now would be 45,800, which did come down significantly from last month to this month, which was $54,000. So you can imagine that it's probably going to come down maybe even below $40,000 on the next closing month. So the longer that Bitcoin kind of just holds sides without completely shitting the bed, the better. But again, another thing that does suggest, well, probably very unlikely we've seen the lows just yet, as again, all of these green vertical bars do correlate with that shift in stochastic momentum direction, which, to be fair, does come after the actual low. So, you know, that's counterpoint to what I'm saying. But again, if you're just kind of looking for the easy trade, dare I say, just waiting for that condition to happen, probably going to be relevant, or at least something to keep an eye on. All right, sweet. So we're 20 minutes into this video. I haven't even spoken about the damn sale that we have. I apologize on that. Yep, we have a sale going on. There is a little bit less than 1 day left. So yeah, there's no rush. We'll obviously have more sales again in the future if you so desire. As always, when it comes to these programs, please make sure that you watch the promotional videos that go alongside them. They explain who they're for, who they're not for, so that you can make an educated decision for yourself if it's relevant to you or not. So I will waste no more time because we're already a little bit longer in this video than I typically like to be. But I will leave that one there. Cool. It's been an absolute pleasure on this nice little Sunday. Please have yourself a nice day. Hey, have a nice day, man, or woman. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more live stream analysis. With that said, take care and see you hopefully soon.